Okay, so just a little background story. This video that you're about to see involves a baby duckling that we found inside of our coop. It was with our first round of meat chickens that we had purchased, and so this was way back in the summer. Several months ago, probably 5-6 months at least. And it does show a passed away duckling, and then we also found a duckling that had been covered in ants. So essentially I went outside, one of the hens had been sitting on a nest. Well, somehow the meat birds that we had previously had, one squeezed through because it was smaller than the rest. That does happen, some grow slower, and she squeezed into the pen and actually got underneath the hen and was pecking at the eggs. And this is the point where I walked in and discovered what was going on. We had not intended for our hens to have any more nest anywhere because we were not hatching anymore, because at that point we knew that we would be staying out of town for a while and starting to downsize the animals that we had because I was working and he was working almost 2.5 hours away from home. So that's kind of the backstory of everything. You are going to hear a lot of crying within the first 2 minutes of the video, but I couldn't figure out exactly how to edit it out because there's some important information at the beginning of the video to kind of understand the backstory here. However, as many of you know, if you've been following for a minute, I have a special needs daughter. Unfortunately, with parenting, things are not always perfect. Kids have meltdowns, especially when they don't fully understand what was going on. And this was before we really got heavy into therapy and really started making strides, back when her epilepsy was acting up, and it was a really rough time for her trying to recover. So I hope that if you're watching this, you'll be able to give us some grace, and if not, then the reality is this may not be the channel for you. We are a big family, we are a messy family, and I am about openly sharing some of the struggles that we have with what we go through with our own health issues and our children's health issues, without giving so much away that it injures them, if that makes sense at all. But as for my daughter, there are a lot of things that she cannot understand, and she will probably not live on her own as an adult. She will be with us forever, and she may surprise us. You know, God works in mysterious ways and miracles happen every day, but I mean, this is our life, and it is messy and it is loud. So hopefully you can see past that, but I just wanted to give a warning because some people don't like seeing death. They don't like seeing injured animals, especially when they're young, like these ducklings are. They're hatching, and they are hatching before they are supposed to be hatching because the eggs were cracked open by fowl. So I think this is a good opportunity to say that really watch your meat birds because they can be aggressive. These meat birds were actually separated from the rest of our flock and they still managed to get in. So it's crazy how that happens sometimes. I've even seen them try to dig underneath things to crawl under. It's really funny how they work, especially if there's something on the other side they want. So it's crazy, but it's the reality of homesteads and the reality of being both a special needs parent, a homeschool parent, and just a parent in general, to be really honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the rest of the video. I just kind of wanted to give everyone a heads up, maybe explain some of the stuff. Ignore the background, there's a lot going on. This is pointed towards our backyard and has everything in it. My brother's car that he's fixing up, part of the shed, so it is what it is. But I just wanted to get on here, say hi, warn everybody, and say that if you're not good with loud sounds, maybe fast forward for the first minute and a half, or maybe this isn't the video for you, and that's okay too. So I'm hoping that no one can hear Frozen in the background. My daughter's upset because she was playing her game and I took my phone temporarily, but
Today I went out to check on the birds and gather eggs because, you know, I work the weekends. And I saw the meat chicken in the nest after the other ducks had gotten up, pecking this baby while it was trying to hatch. And another baby that had hatched that did not make it, and both were covered in ants. So I grabbed this one and had my son help me fire up this incubator. Unfortunately, the incubator looks like it could still use some cleaning. But right now, this is an emergency situation for this baby, kind of. So we need to get it warm, especially after being pecked at by a giant chicken and then being covered in ants. Since we already lost one of them, I wanted to get it in here as soon as possible. And then there are other eggs in the nest that I'm going to put in here, but they actually look like new eggs. They don't look far along like this one was at all. So I think that other birds were laying eggs in the nest, but I'm going to put them in here just in case. Right now you can see my son went ahead and dumped a whole jar of water in here. I believe it was a pint jar, right, buddy?
Yes, it is.
And it's still heating up, so we're just gonna let it heat up and do its thing, and hopefully this baby will be okay. But it's pretty far along in the hatching process, so I was a little worried moving it. But if they're just gonna let the chickens get in there and peck at them and kill the babies, we have to rescue them as much as possible. So here are the other eggs, and like I said, they don't look as far along at all. Outside, they actually, the ones that were further along looked really dark. And so I'm just going to put them in there because I don't have time, or nor can I see as bright as it is in our house. I don't have a dark spot to really candle them right now. So we're just going to go ahead and put them in. You can see I just picked up something I found on the ground and threw the eggs in really fast because
Oh my gosh. Look.
we are in such a hurry to get in here. I know. It looks like it's gonna be a dark Campbell duckling, like a dark color. Yeah, like the other hens that are really dark brown. That's what this one looks like. It's gonna look like.
Possibly. Mortal duck.
I'm hoping it makes it. We really weren't wanting any more ducklings. We were kind of over the duckling season. Oh, it looks like an ant got into the thing. Let's get that out. And then our ducks went broody, but we kept noticing eggs were breaking and we thought it was our geese. And thank goodness I didn't sell our geese out of frustration because I almost did. But it turns out I caught the meat chicken, had snuck in there, and caught them in action because the meat chickens are kept on a different side of the coop, usually where they can't get in to where the ducks are. And one got in and yeah, it was in there cracking up all the eggs. So hopefully this baby does okay. Man, thank you for your help. I kind of woke Larry up out of bed to get him to help me because I was so surprised. Yeah, I know, baby. For the humidity, usually we want it up close to like 65-70% when they're hatching. This one is not that high because
we just started it.
Yeah, it just got started, so
we weren't expecting it
at all. So once it heats up, the humidity will probably shoot up really quickly too, and if it doesn't, we'll just add a little bit more water to it. I'm just hoping the duckling does okay, considering this incubator could have probably used a cleaning before we just threw it in there. But I like the odds of it being in here much better than the odds of it being in the duck coop, that's for sure. So here is the meat chicken that I actually am going to have to gather up that got in here, and sometimes they get through, but really what I think is happening is that some of the kids think that meat chickens can be pets when they're not the case. For one, they're just raised really quickly and they don't have longevity and good health, so that's really not an option. But two, they can be quite aggressive, especially with eating, which we've kind of seen today with the duck eggs now that they're in here. So I'm gonna have to get the boys to help me gather them because they keep running underneath the rabbit cages and I cannot gather them up, but they have to be gotten out of here. And then if you're sensitive, you may not want to stick around for this part or fast forward about 2 minutes, because what I'm going to do right now is show you the baby duckling that didn't make it that I found in the nest, and it was one of the ones that I'm guessing the ducks were pecking at. The chickens were pecking at. So I know the mama ducks are pretty upset because they've lost their nest, but at the same time, they were off doing their thing. They weren't taking care of the eggs and the babies. So we had to put them inside of the incubator to even have the chance. So right now I'm going to show the baby duckling. This is it. It did not make it. You can see by the time I got here it was cold and covered in ants. So it's really sad. It would have been a really cute duckling, but unfortunately this is the hardest part of homesteading. And so I'm hoping that we can kind of save the duckling that we have.
Hey, Mom.
Yes, sir.
The duckling got its head and body out of the egg, not its legs.
Well, that's awesome. So he's saying the duckling has its head and body out of the egg, so it's just its little legs that need to come out next. So it's pretty well along, and sounds like it's doing well so far, which I'm glad to hear. Here's our geese. I feel bad for them because I was so angry with them, thinking that they were the one cracking the eggs because I hadn't seen the meat chickens in here. And I did see them messing with an egg that was cracked open, but now I'm wondering if they were even the ones that cracked it or if the other chickens cracked it and then the geese just took the opportunity to try it out for themselves. I know, I hear you. These are the younger girls, so they're still getting all their coloring in and darkening up with a golden brown color. They're really pretty. So over on the other side is where we keep our meat chickens, and you can see we have to keep them separated because they're quite aggressive and they eat a ridiculous amount of food. And they're the ones that are causing all this mayhem. So the best thing we can do is go ahead and get the meat chickens where they need to go. And actually look at this. I don't know if you can see because there's a lot of shadowing because of the time of day it is. There's actually a meat chicken over there trying to dig out from under the fence right now in the dirt. So the nightmare ensues with these birds, I swear. I'm not a big fan of keeping meat chickens for more than I have to, and we've added an extra week or two longer. We started butchering, and by we I mean I, but it's been so hot that I didn't finish, and I've been so busy. Looks like I'm just gonna have to suck it up. We had a heat index of 113 the other day, and we're actually already reaching the triple digits, and then the heat index is higher. So between that and the high humidity, it makes it really hard to properly cool off when you're outside here. Because usually your sweat dries and you cool off, but when you live in a humid area, it never dries and you just get hotter and hotter, and it is awful. So that's the downside of living in a really humid area. For you guys who live in humid areas, you know what I'm talking about. When I went to northern Arkansas, and it was more of a dry heat. I mean, it's still humid, but it was less humid than what I'm used to living on the Gulf. And during the winter, it was 27 degrees, and it felt warmer than it was when it was in the 50s or 60s in Texas. So, and I think that has a lot to do with just the sheer amount of humidity that we have.
Here we are. The baby's almost hatched, but it looks like its yolk sac still hasn't been fully absorbed. So I'll have to do an update probably this evening or tomorrow. I really don't think these eggs are
Brutal.
Yeah, these look like they're not very far along, so I might go ahead and lock ourselves in a closet in the boys' room because it's the only totally windowless area in the house. And check them, but I'd be okay. Other than the baby gets lonely if we have one baby. 2 would be better because we just weren't planning for this. We're in the spare bedroom, and we just kind of threw everything together in here because this is our storage area, and hopefully they do okay. Hopefully it does okay. But I'll do an update later. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. So thank you guys for checking out this little baby duckling. This was definitely not the video that I was expecting to make today or at all.